This is the Ohio AgNet from the voice you know with the News You Trust studio, sponsored by BASF and Zidua, the most trusted name in herbicides, providing Ohio soybean and corn acres with up to 2 weeks more residual activity and broad-spectrum weed control. Farm Credit Mid-America divvying out $280 million in patronage this year. How important is sulfur when it comes to growing crops? And is your operation farm risk ready? This morning's news feed brought to you by Timpte, now factory direct in Sydney. From trailer sales to parts and trailer service, the Timpte team is ready to keep you moving. Stop in today or call 326-206-2062. Eligible Farm Credit Mid-America customers going to get a piece of a $280 million pie of the 2026 patronage. Jenny Schultheis, financial officer with Farm Credit Mid-America, joined the latest podcast, talking about what some of the funds might be utilized for at the farm level.
You're going to see our customers who will take that and either use it to build up their working capital. They might need that money to pay down debt. They might need that money to buy a new piece of equipment. Or maybe that's going to help offset some of the cost of inputs.
So how is this funding possible this year?
Our board is going to look at the performance of our cooperative, right? And they're able to see that, our diverse portfolio is very strong. So that is give us the capability to give back to our eligible customers here at Farm Credit.
Robert Mullen is Vice President of Agricultural Technology with Heritage Cooperative. He joins the podcast to talk about the importance of sulfur when it comes to growing a successful crop.
When you think about what sulfur does in the plant, I usually think about the primary use of sulfur is in a couple of different amino acids, and it's absolutely critical for things like cysteine, methionine. If you don't have adequate sulfur, you can't manufacture adequate amounts of those two amino acids, which can lead to decreased yields. And that's when I think about sulfur nutrition, that's primarily what I'm thinking about is the guidelines that we've traditionally used for its supplementation and what it ultimately does in the plant.
Then today's farmers facing more uncertainty than ever before. Is your farm risk ready? Nationwide's Chief Agriculture and Sponsor Relations Officer Devin Furman talks about a new tool that'll help farmers get ready for those uncertainties.
Farm Risk Ready is basically it's an online platform, and it's really I'll call it a collection of resources that farmers, ranchers can use to identify those potential threats and risks on their farm, looking at different things like supply chain disruption, loss of market access, disease outbreaks. It doesn't just focus on one thing or the other, but it gives them a chance to say, how am I doing when it comes to navigating and mitigating these risks? But then it also takes another step and says, what's my plan? What should I do? And it gives them, for lack of a better term, a little bit of a playbook or a roadmap as to how to deal with those things as they emerge, as well as prepare for those things and protect their farms and ranches against those risks.
Learn more about Farm Credit Mid-America's patronage program, the use of sulfur in agriculture production, and Nationwide's new Farm Risk Ready tool in the new podcast powered by Ohio Corn and Wheat, online now at ohioagnet.com. Let's get a check of the forecast with Ryan Martin, brought to you by Seed Consultants. Simply better performance, online at seedconsultants.com.
We've got some rain that wants to move in here. Now, it's not going to be right away. I think for your Monday here, we feature a mix of clouds and sunshine with only a few hit and miss as scattered showers trying to pop up. Now, overnight tonight through tomorrow, completely different story. Scattered showers develop first in the central and northern parts of the state. Frontal boundary set moves in from the northwest overnight tomorrow night into Wednesday. Full statewide rain coverage through Wednesday into Thursday. Another system brewing out to the west for later in the week, Thursday night into Friday. And yet another front wants to sweep through Saturday into early Sunday. So I think the best way to look at precipitation here for us in Ohio is now through Sunday, and we can see anywhere from 1 to 3 inches. I'm Ryan Martin.
Ryan, thank you. The U.S. EPA has finalized the Renewable Fuel Standard Set 2 rule, setting renewable fuel volume requirements for 2026 and 2027 at the highest levels in the program's history. To meet the historic 2026 and 2027 volume levels, EPA estimates that biodiesel and renewable diesel production and use will need to increase by over 60% compared to 2025 volumes. This in particular will drive renewed demand for American soybean producers. With the benefits set to will bring to American farmers, EPA estimates that the rule will generate over $10 billion for rural economies and create over 100,000 new jobs in the ag and manufacturing sectors. To provide continued certainty for American corn and ethanol producers, EPA will maintain the $15 billion conventional biofuel level for 2026 and 2027. Read more online now at ohioagnet.com. The fertilizer industry is facing some legal challenges. With more, here's Allison Kinney.
Recently, several antitrust class action lawsuits were filed against the world's largest fertilizer producers, alleging a coordinated effort to artificially inflate the prices of essential crop nutrients. These complaints allude that starting around January of 2021, these companies exploited their dominant market positions to restrict supply and maintain capacity discipline. While the companies historically attributed price spikes to global supply chain disruptions and geopolitical volatility, the lawsuits argue that prices remained at record highs long after those external pressures subsided. The litigation highlights the difference from historical pricing norms. Between 2021 and 2022, the cost of nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium fertilizer surged significantly. According to the filings, this alleged price fixing added an estimated $128,000 in additional input costs per farm in 2022 alone. For more information, the entire article can be found at ocj.com. For the Ohio AgNet, I'm Allison Kinney reporting.
The Ohio AgNet continues after this.
Bomb would have been 31, sold them 30,000, Gene.
Get ready to bid on the heavy equipment and vehicles you need in a Ritchie Brothers Midwest Regional Auction happening May 12th. Inventory is housed at Minneapolis, Kansas City, Chicago, Columbus, Detroit, and Lincoln locations. Choose from a wide selection of construction and transportation equipment. Don't miss this opportunity. Visit rbauction.com/Chicago to sign up. Again, that's rbauction.com/Chicago.
Hey farmers, planting season is almost here, and Ohio AgNet wants to bring lunch to your farm. Our Feeding Farmers contest is going statewide, and we'll soon be picking farms across Ohio to receive a visit from the Ohio AgNet and free lunch for your farm family and crew. If you'd like us to stop by, get signed up today. Just visit ohioagnet.com/feedingfarmers to enter. Feeding Farmers is brought to you by Ag Revolution, Paradise Energy Solutions, and the Ohio AgNet, the voice you know with the news you trust. Welcome back to the Ohio AgNet. I'm Ty Higgins. For today's featured audio, Dusty has a sluggish report. Not in pace, but in pest.
I'm joined today by John Tooker, and John is an entomologist at Penn State University. We're at the Conservation Tillage and Technology Conference. John, you just got done doing a great presentation dealing with slugs, IPM, or Integrated Pest Management, and how that rolls in. And maybe before that, when we're talking slugs, we aren't talking insects. We're talking mollusks, something totally different.
Yeah, so that's kind of key to recognize in any pest management scenario. You want to understand well the organisms you're trying to control. And what you said is quite right. So insects and slugs are different. Slugs are a type of mollusk, so they're more closely related to snails and octopus and squid than they are to insects, which are in a totally different phylum. So to kill a slug, you typically need to find something that is active on mollusks. To kill an insect, you typically use something that's active on insects. And there's not that much overlap in the products that are available to kill both.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. So that sort of rolls into the idea, though, as we're killing insects, where seed treatments come in, because obviously we're putting those treatments on seed to protect the seed, to protect the new crop. But maybe that can be counterproductive when it comes to slug damage.
Yes, it can be counterproductive. So our research has shown that slugs will feed on, say, corn and soybean plants that have been grown from a insecticide-coated seed, and they get the insecticide in their body, but because they're not susceptible to those chemicals, they'll go on living just fine. But when, say, a predatory insect attacks a slug, then that insecticide will move from the slug to the insect, poisoning that insect, oftentimes killing them. So that's one route of an insecticide, is kind of disrupting predator population that allows slug populations to grow. I should also note that it's not just the neonicotinoids that are concerning here. It's more or less any insecticide use, because insecticides that are broadcast across a field can have similar effects. And other researchers have shown that, say, using an organophosphate or a pyrethroid can kill predators. And those, if you have fewer predators, then you have fewer things that can eat slugs. And that's kind of allows the slug population to be more problematic.
Well, oftentimes it seems like we don't realize we have a slug problem until it's a problem, until we're out there looking at a stand of beans or another crop, and all of a sudden we realize that there's holes out there. There's either holes in the field or, if nothing else, there's holes in the leaves and something's going on. What are some ways folks maybe can try and preempt that a little bit, scout or look and monitor that?
Yeah, so I'm a believer in integrated pest management, as you introduced. So that approach to kind of crop protection involves regular scouting. So looking at fields, every 7 to 14 days, as much as one can manage. And if you're looking in the spring when slugs are most active, you're looking for those spots where slugs are feeding heavily on plants. And then you're trying to figure out if the population's kind of too big and needs to be controlled. So in our research, we used white shingles to scout slug populations. So these are roofing shingles that are white, and we cut them up into 1 foot by 1 foot sections and put them in the field as soon as it kind of warms up in the spring, well before planting, because slugs will gather under there, and then you can go and count the number of slugs that you have. And our research has shown that if you're getting 1 to 2 slugs per shingle per week, that those are slug fields, as we call them, so fields to watch a little bit more closely that are kind of prone to slug damage.
Now, cover crops, another big topic. Obviously, we're at the Conservation Tillage and Technology Conference, so cover crops, an important part of the conversations that go on here. And I know I've had the perception, and I think others do as well, that when you have cover crops, especially ones that overwintered, you can tend to trap some of that moisture and create a favorable environment for slugs. But you say there's some other benefits, though, from the predator insects and other predators.
Yeah, that's right. Most folks' intuition is that cover crops are going to make slug populations worse because of the moisture they trap, the organic matter that they're putting into the system, kind of, et cetera. And that's not wrong, but our research has found that actually cover crops can foster better populations and better communities of predators that will eat slugs. So one of the benefits of cover cropping is to grow those populations of predators, and then you can have fewer slugs in your field.
Great information. My guest again today has been John Tooker. He's with Penn State University, an entomologist, telling us a little bit more about slugs. John, thanks for your time.
All right, Dusty, thanks for having me.
We'll check the markets and get some analysis coming up next as the Ohio AgNet continues.
Every bushel you grow needs a market. That's why the Ohio Soybean Council is working to expand demand for Ohio soybeans around the world. Your checkoff supports international outreach, trade team visits, and putting Ohio soy in front of global buyers. By showcasing the quality, reliability, and value of Ohio soybeans, you can count on new opportunities and increased demand today and into the future. Visit soyohio.org to see all the ways your Ohio soybean checkoff is at work, expanding markets for your beans.
If agriculture is your way of life, you need news you can count on. That's why Ohio farmers turn to Ohio's Country Journal, your source for the latest in crop updates, livestock insights, market trends, and the stories that celebrate country life across our state. Every issue keeps you informed, connected, and ready for what's next in Ohio agriculture. So don't miss a beat. Renew your subscription or sign up today at ocj.com/renew and grow with the publication built for Ohio farm families. That's ocj.com/renew.
Welcome back to the Ohio AgNet. I'm Ty Higgins, and today's market analysis is brought to you by Louis Dreyfus Company. Excited to bring a brand new soybean crush facility to Upper Sandusky. Learn more about marketing your soybeans with LDC at 574-566-2113. Here's Ryan Martin.
Grain markets finished on a weaker note last Friday. This week, though, wide open. Here's the reason why. On Friday, the markets were digesting the RVO SRE announcements during the Trump Ag celebration as slightly bearish. Why? Because the full RIN is going to be available for foreign feedstocks and green diesel all the way into 2028. That means the used cooking oil that comes in out of China, all that kind of stuff, the full RINs are still available. However, over the weekend, ag media spin was out and hard, talking about how big of a deal this was going to be for farmers on the RVOs, and that the volumes, it should put multi-millions or billions in farmer pockets. I don't know if I believe that or not. It feels to me like this goes into, well, producer pockets, but we will see. The ethanol mandate was unchanged as well, so this week will be interesting. I'm Ryan Martin.
Ryan, thank you. We're higher in the overnight trade with corn for May up 2 cents, $4.64 a bushel. Soybeans for May, $11.63.5, up by 4 1/4, and July wheat up 2 3/4 at $6.18 3/4. Markets brought to you by Seed Consultants, simply better performance. Online at seedconsultants.com. After Friday's trade, live cattle for April up 340 at 238.50. May feeders up 807 at 359.82, and lean hogs for April 90.77 down a nickel. This is the Ohio AgNet.